Hey, Demon Dev here. Basically, I've been doing a lot of motion capture again recently, always finding somebody who can have a good time with recording animations, especially two-person animations. Um, One girl, one guy is super fun. And basically, some of the projects I'm working on is I'm picking back up the dating sim Double Demons that I've worked on for a really long time. And I'm also just trying to get into doing more motion capture in general, which is the whole like biped that you're seeing in the background. I've also got a little bit of gameplay going from Double Demons, from kind of what the current state is, where the animations aren't well linked to the dialogue lines, but that is the plan. So as you can see, I'm basically getting all of the configuration set for her, and taking a scan as well, because it's been one interest to kind of make a 3D model of the person in the motion capture suit to kind of help debug things better, because the bipeds are sort of nice, but it's a little bit abstract to tell what the character's doing. And the actual character that goes in the game or in an animation that gets rendered out doesn't necessarily fit the person perfectly. So one thought that I had is like, okay, maybe I'll do a 3D scan, a rough job of both me and her in the motion capture suit, and then be able to calibrate better from there. So that's what's going on there. At this point, I'm trying to hook up the head, like facial tracking stuff, using like a iPhone 12, I think. And once I've got that set up, then I put it in the headgear, and I put the headgear on her, and then the headgear also has like a little Velcro piece that the head of the biped sensor can be linked to, which is why the biped's head has been kind of sideways up until now. But so we're starting to get at that going, and instead of just jumping into my own suit myself, I kind of like to capture some animations of just the other person, because one of the tough realities of doing motion capture, and I've been doing it on and off, sometimes a lot, for about 2 or 3 years, is sometimes things don't work, and especially when there's another person there, you really badly want it to be a super fun experience. So we did have a blast. She's one of the most fun that I've had to work with trying to get the suits work, even though the suits were not that that easy to get going. We ran into some issues, but for her suit, her gloves, her head, her face tracking all worked really well. So I was able to record some walking animations. I was telling her to try to act afraid and scared, because one of the projects that I'm starting up is sort of like a goth mansion horror game where the main character is this girl that goes around in like different, like, I guess, yeah, gothic outfits that have different powers that allow her to resist different demons or curses that are hanging around. And you have to pick out different like accessories or outfits to ward off different types of demons, so that you can ultimately escape the mansion, but in the short term just survive, and sort of survival horror, feed yourself and all that. So the main animations that we recorded was basically her walking, her being afraid, and then I had one idea that for like a more dramatic cinematic moment where a monster would be grabbing her leg and like pulling her, and she was like crawling backwards. So trying to capture that, and then bring it into the next stage where I attach it to a new character that I'm working on as I get back into making 3D characters again. Will be super fun. And then earlier in the night, she was also wearing some dresses that I was going to try to use as inspiration, and also 3D scan in to see if that can help with some of the materials and texturing for that. Let's see, what else? Okay, I think at this point I get my motion capture suit on, and this derails a little bit. She's still having a great time, and she was actually, doing some dancing, and just kind of just having fun with the motion capture suit. I think that's been one of the highlights of getting into motion capture, is when there's somebody I can collaborate with, either that's helping me record clips or recording themselves, just having a great time. And trying to make the biped move on screen is super cool. I mean, it's like behind the scenes that people see with like Lord of the Rings or Avatar or all sorts of effects. So there is something really special when you get to share that with somebody. Let me see, can I move my camera around? Yeah. But yeah, getting it all to work together was super cool. Even though my headgear or my facial capture never quite connected, and one of my hands was kind of off, and I'm doing some troubleshooting of that now. But we were still able to run some tests, and I was able to get a little bit more experience using the Coil Pro, which is something that I've struggled to get to use properly in the past. But there is a really cool potential application when you do get it synchronized well, where the two animations recorded at the same time are linked up, and that is something that I'm especially interested in, recording motion capture animations for two-person scenes, because there really is a lot of motion capture data out there for like one side of it, whether it's like sword slashes, karate attacks, all sorts of combat stuff, but the slice of life stuff, not so much, and definitely slice of life if there's two people, whether it's just like talking or like hugs, kisses, like anything like rom-com or like anime, like moments, I feel like could be a huge like interest in terms of selling assets and even just working on the game projects, whether it's for Double Demons, which is a dating sim, hence all those animations and some of the characters that you're seeing over there on the screen. Those are all from Double Demons in the spirit world and in the mundane, like modern world apartment that I've been switching back and forth between. So I'm excited to do more motion capture. This was for yet another project, Merc of Hearts, which there are still a few people that are maybe interested in working on with me, where basically you have these monster like worms, not too different than Dune, but far deeper underground instead of just like at the crust level, at like the mantle level, or maybe some other sort of like otherworldly alien goo that you kind of have to get through, sort of like a dangerous subterranean rapture inspired environment. And basically these monster hearts are sci-fi magic that allow you to create anything. So they're the most valuable energy source, and in order to collect them, one of the characters that I'm working on basically has like a hole that is for collecting these monster hearts. So in that scene, the main character has a heart attack, and the sort of companion character in the game has to resuscitate them by like pulling like a zip cord, sort of like a lawnmower. So that's what I have her doing there, which is also super fun to record. And I think it's really important not just to try to record generic like walking animations and punching animations, especially since I am an animator myself and I've worked on games for many years where I'm creating the character animations just from scratch with the bone structures with no motion capture involved at all. I think it's fun to do something crazy. So like her stepping on top of me and like pulling as if I'm wearing like a diver suit, which is the current design for the character in Merc of Hearts. So definitely get subscribed, throw a like or a comment. Tell me if you have a favorite project, whether it's Double Demons, the sort of magic dating sim RPG, Merc of Hearts, sort of more of a sci-fi BioShock first-person shooter, or I don't have a working title for the Goth Mansion game yet. So you could, so if any of those appeal to you, awesome. I'm going to be working on those, but I'm also going to be creating motion capture packs to sell on the Unity Asset Store and eventually Unreal Marketplace once I figure out the right way to go for rigs that will work with other models. All right, have a good one. Thanks.